In the vast expanse of the universe, where stars shimmered like diamonds against the velvet backdrop of space, there existed a galaxy known as Zerathia. It was home to one of the most feared beings in all creation, a woman named Valithra. Her reputation preceded her across star systems and wormholes alike, whispered with equal parts awe and terror by every sentient species that dared to venture into interstellar space. Valithra wasn't just any alien. She was an apex predator of intellect, strength, and strategy. With skin that glowed faintly blue under dim light and eyes like twin galaxies swirling with power, she commanded respect, or fear, from everyone who crossed her path. Her species, the Crinians, were renowned for their mastery over advanced technology and their ability to adapt to any environment. But Valithra had risen far above even their lofty standards. She led the intergalactic coalition of sovereign worlds, a coalition so powerful it could determine the fate of entire civilizations with a single decree. Yet, what made Valithra truly formidable wasn't her arsenal of weapons or her unparalleled tactical mind. It was her unyielding resolve. Once she set her sights on something or someone, nothing could sway her from achieving her goal. And now, her focus was locked firmly on Earth. Earth, though primitive compared to many other worlds, intrigued Valithra. Its inhabitants lived chaotic lives filled with contradictions. Kindness and cruelty, beauty and destruction, love and hatred, all coexisting in a fragile balance. The humans fascinated her, not because they posed a threat, but because they seemed incapable of staying within boundaries. They dreamed beyond their means, reached for stars they couldn't grasp, and somehow managed to survive despite themselves. That curiosity turned into obsession when reports reached her about a human male unlike any other, a man called Eric Kane. Eric Kane was no ordinary human. Born on the outskirts of a bustling megacity, he grew up surrounded by the hum of hovercars and the glow of neon lights. His childhood wasn't easy. His parents worked tirelessly to make ends meet while raising him in a world where survival often depended on grit and luck. From a young age, Eric displayed an uncanny knack for problem-solving and an insatiable thirst for adventure. By the time he reached adulthood, he'd earned a reputation as both a genius inventor and a reckless daredevil. He built machines that defied conventional physics and raced them through asteroid fields for fun. People called him fearless, though some muttered foolhardy behind his back. But Eric's bravado wasn't born out of arrogance. Beneath his confident exterior lay a deep-seated belief in humanity's potential. Despite its flaws, he saw greatness in his people, the same greatness that drew Valithra's attention. When rumors spread of extraterrestrial activity near Earth's orbit, most humans panicked. Governments scrambled to prepare defenses, media outlets churned out sensational headlines, and conspiracy theories ran rampant. Not Eric. Instead, he strapped himself into his custom-built spacecraft, nicknamed the Wanderer, and ventured into the unknown. Whether driven by curiosity, courage, or sheer stubbornness, Eric didn't hesitate to face whatever, or whoever, awaited him among the stars. And so, the stage was set. In one corner stood Valithra, the embodiment of galactic authority and power. In the other, Eric Kane, the epitome of human resilience and audacity. Their paths were destined to collide, sparking a story that would ripple across the cosmos. Little did either of them know, this encounter wouldn't be defined by conquest or conflict, but by something far more unpredictable: love. Valithra stood at the helm of her flagship, the Ecliptica, gazing out at the swirling nebulae beyond the viewport. Her fingers traced the edge of her crystalline gauntlet, a gesture she often made when deep in thought. The reports had been clear. Unauthorized human vessels were encroaching upon restricted space. Most would have dismissed such intrusions as accidental, perhaps even harmless. But Valithra knew better. Humans weren't explorers, they were opportunists. If left unchecked, their presence could destabilize centuries of carefully maintained order. "Commander," came the voice of her second-in-command, Xeris, a towering Crinian warrior with armor etched in glowing runes. "Shall we intercept?" Valithra turned, her luminous eyes narrowing. "No," she said after a moment. "This is personal." Xeris tilted his head, confusion flickering across his otherwise stoic features. Personal? Valithra rarely let emotions dictate her decisions. She thrived on logic, precision, and control. Whatever this human vessel represented, it had struck a chord within her, and Xeris knew better than to question further. Meanwhile, aboard the Wanderer, Eric leaned back in his pilot's seat, feet propped up on the console as he sipped synth coffee from a chipped mug. His ship wasn't much to look at. patched-together panels, exposed wiring, and a navigation system held together by duct tape and sheer willpower. But it was his pride and joy. The cockpit hummed softly around him, the sound comforting in its familiarity. "All right, old girl," he murmured to the ship, patting the dashboard affectionately. "Let's see what's out here." As if answering his call, the sensors pinged sharply, and a holographic display materialized before him. A massive vessel loomed ahead, sleek and menacing, its hull adorned with alien symbols that pulsed faintly with energy. Eric whistled low. Well, that's new. He tapped a few commands into the console, trying to hail the ship. Static crackled in response. Undeterred, he grabbed a handheld communicator and leaned closer to the viewport. "Hey there. Friendly neighborhood explorer waving hello. Any chance you speak galactic standard?" Silence greeted him. Then, without warning, the larger ship moved with terrifying speed, positioning itself directly in front of the Wanderer. Lights flared, bathing Eric's cockpit in an eerie glow. For a moment, panic clawed at the edges of his mind, but he shoved it aside. Fear wasn't going to help him now. "Guest introductions are off the table," he muttered, gripping the controls tightly. Just as he prepared to execute an evasive maneuver, a transmission broke through the static. "You are trespassing," a cold, commanding voice stated. It was feminine, laced with authority and just a hint of disdain. "Identify yourself." Eric blinked, then grinned. "Trespassing? Look, lady, I didn't see any keep-out signs floating around. Name's Eric Kane, professional troublemaker and amateur stargazer. Who am I talking to?" There was a pause, long enough to make Eric wonder if the connection had dropped. Then the voice returned, tinged with irritation. "I am Commander Valithra of the Crinian Empire. You will stand down and await boarding." "Boarding?" Eric laughed, though his grip on the controls tightened. "Yeah, no offense, Commander, but I've got plans today. Maybe next week." Before Valithra could respond, alarms blared throughout the Ecliptica. Xerus barked orders, his warriors scrambling to ready the boarding party. On the bridge, Valithra clenched her fists, her patience wearing thin. This human dared to defy her? Unacceptable. Back aboard the Wanderer, Eric frantically worked the controls, dodging incoming fire as the Crinian ship unleashed a barrage of plasma bolts. Sparks flew as one grazed his starboard engine, sending the smaller craft spinning wildly. Cursing under his breath, Eric wrestled with the stick, managing to stabilize the ship just in time to avoid another blast. Okay, he muttered, sweat beading on his forehead. Time to get creative. With a flick of a switch, he activated one of his experimental gadgets, a cloaking device cobbled together from spare parts and sheer determination. The Wanderer shimmered briefly before disappearing entirely from view. Sensors aboard the Ecliptica went haywire, unable to track the rogue vessel. Valithra's jaw tightened. Impossible. No human technology should be capable of such a feat yet. As the readings confirmed the target's disappearance, she felt something stir within her. Not anger, exactly, but intrigue. Who was this Eric Kane? And why did he refuse to play by the rules? For several tense minutes, the two ships remained locked in a silent standoff. Then, unexpectedly, the Wanderer reappeared, hovering just outside the Ecliptica's range. Eric leaned forward, speaking directly into the comlink. "Listen, Commander," he said, his tone surprisingly calm despite the chaos. "I'm not looking for a fight. All I want is answers. Why are you guys guarding this sector like it's Fort Knox?" Another pause. Then, finally, Valithra spoke. "You are persistent. And you're mysterious." Eric shot back, grinning despite himself. "How about we call it even and start over?" Valithra hesitated. Logic dictated that she destroy the nuisance before it caused further disruption. Yet, something about his audacity intrigued her. Perhaps it was the way he faced her with humor instead of fear. Or maybe it was the spark of ingenuity evident in his makeshift cloaking device. Whatever it was, she found herself issuing an order she hadn't anticipated. "Stand down your engines," she commanded. "We will discuss terms." Eric raised an eyebrow but complied, powering down his thrusters. As the Ecliptica extended a docking tube toward his ship, he leaned back in his seat, exhaling slowly. "All right, buddy," he said to himself. "Let's see how this plays out." When the airlock hissed open and armed Crinian soldiers stormed aboard, Eric held up his hands in mock surrender. "Easy there, folks. No need for theatrics. They escorted him onto the Ecliptica, where Velithra awaited in full regalia, her armor gleaming, her cape flowing dramatically behind her. For a moment, Eric forgot how to breathe. She was breathtaking, literally radiating power and elegance. When their eyes met, however, he recovered quickly, flashing his trademark grin. "So," he said, stepping forward, "you must be the infamous Commander Velithra. Hate to break it to you, but your welcome wagon could use some work." Velithra stared at him, her expression unreadable. "You are either extraordinarily brave or profoundly foolish. Maybe a bit of both," Eric replied, shrugging. "Either way, glad we're finally meeting face to face." Despite herself, Velithra felt a flicker of amusement. Perhaps this human wasn't entirely irredeemable. As days passed, Eric found himself navigating the labyrinthine corridors of the Ecliptica, accompanied by a rotating guard of Crinian warriors who seemed perpetually torn between admiration and frustration. Velithra had decreed that he remain on board until she determined whether his presence posed a threat or an opportunity. Though technically a prisoner, Eric treated the situation like an extended field trip, peppering his captors with questions about their technology, culture, and history. During one such exchange, he stumbled upon a group of engineers repairing a damaged conduit. Intrigued, he crouched beside them, examining their tools. "Mind if I take a look?" he asked, already reaching for a wrench-like device. The lead engineer hesitated, glancing nervously at the guards stationed nearby. "It is forbidden to interfere with our work." "Oh, come on," Eric said, winking conspiratorially. "What's the worst that could happen?" Before anyone could stop him, he adjusted the settings on the tool, tweaking its output frequency. To everyone's astonishment, the malfunctioning conduit stabilized almost instantly. The engineers exchanged astonished glances, murmuring excitedly in their native tongue. Word of Eric's impromptu repair spread quickly, eventually reaching Velithra's ears. She summoned him to the observation deck, where she stood overlooking a panoramic view of a distant star cluster. Without turning, she addressed him. "You continue to surprise me, human." "Name's Eric," he corrected gently, leaning casually against the railing. "And surprising people is kind of my thing." Velithra turned, studying him intently. "Your actions today have earned you a measure of trust. Do not squander it." Eric raised his hands in mock surrender. "Wouldn't dream of it. Though honestly, I was just trying to help. Back on Earth, fixing stuff is kinda my jam." Her gaze softened ever so slightly. "Your planet fascinates me. So much chaos, yet so much potential." "Yeah, well, humans are nothing if not ambitious," Eric replied with a chuckle. "Sometimes it works out great. Other times," he trailed off, scratching the back of his neck. "Let's just say we're still figuring things out." Velithra nodded, her thoughts drifting. For all her power and authority, she sometimes envied humanity's raw unpredictability. Her own life had been shaped by duty and discipline, leaving little room for spontaneity or wonder. Watching Eric interact with her crew, laughing and learning alongside them, stirred something unfamiliar within her, a longing for connection. Their conversation shifted to lighter topics, and soon they found themselves sharing stories. Eric recounted tales of his adventures on Earth, complete with exaggerated gestures and dramatic flair. Velithra listened intently, occasionally offering insights from her own experiences. Slowly but surely, the rigid formality between them began to dissolve. At one point, Eric gestured animatedly, nearly knocking over a delicate instrument on a nearby pedestal. Velithra caught it reflexively, her movements fluid and precise. Eric froze, wide-eyed. "Whoa, nice save." She arched an eyebrow. "Carelessness is a luxury you cannot afford aboard my ship." "Noted," he said, grinning sheepishly. "Guess I'll try to keep my klutziness in check." Despite her stern words, Velithra couldn't suppress a faint smile. There was something undeniably endearing about his enthusiasm and his blatant disregard for protocol. Over the following days, their interactions became less formal and more frequent. Velithra allowed Eric limited access to certain areas of the ship, curious to see how he would approach challenges vastly different from those on Earth. To her amazement, he adapted effortlessly, blending creativity with practicality in ways that left even her seasoned engineers impressed. One evening, as they shared a meal in the officers' mess, Eric leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "So, Commander, tell me something nobody else knows about you." Velithra paused, considering his request. Few had ever dared to ask such a personal question. I once dreamed of exploring the stars, she admitted quietly. Before duty called, I imagined charting uncharted territories, discovering wonders beyond imagination. Eric's expression softened. Sounds like we have more in common than I thought. Her eyes met his, and for a fleeting moment, the vast distance between their worlds seemed to shrink. They were simply two beings, connected by curiosity and courage, daring to imagine possibilities greater than themselves. As weeks turned into months, the dynamic aboard the Ecliptica underwent a subtle yet profound transformation. What had begun as a tense standoff between Velithra and Eric evolved into a partnership neither had anticipated. Their shared missions took them deeper into uncharted regions of space, where dangers lurked in every shadow and opportunities awaited those bold enough to seize them. Together, they navigated asteroid fields teeming with hostile lifeforms, deciphered ancient alien artifacts that pulsed with forgotten knowledge, and brokered uneasy truces with rival factions whose motives remained shrouded in mystery. Through it all, humor became their secret weapon. During one particularly harrowing escape from a collapsing nebula, Eric quipped, "Next time, let's pick a vacation spot with fewer exploding suns." Yeah? Even Velithra, who prided herself on maintaining composure in the direst situations, found herself stifling a laugh. These moments of levity helped ease the strain of their perilous journey, forging bonds stronger than mere camaraderie. Yet, beneath the laughter and teamwork lay simmering tension. Tension born not of conflict but of attraction. Neither Velithra nor Eric could deny the magnetic pull drawing them closer with each passing day. It manifested in small ways. Lingering glances during briefings, accidental brushes of hands while reviewing data, and increasingly frequent late-night conversations that stretched far beyond matters of strategy or survival. One evening, after a particularly grueling mission involving a malfunctioning terraforming device on a remote moon, they found themselves alone in the observation lounge. The room was bathed in the soft glow of a nearby binary star system, casting shifting patterns of light across the walls. Exhausted but exhilarated, they collapsed onto a bench overlooking the viewport. "You realize," Velithra began, breaking the comfortable silence, "that you've become indispensable to this crew." Eric chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. "Funny. I was about to say the same thing about you." Her gaze softened, her usual steely demeanor melting away under the weight of unspoken emotions. "This connection between us, it complicates matters." "Complicates?" Eric echoed, his tone teasing but tinged with vulnerability. "I thought complications were your specialty, Commander." Velithra sighed, turning to face him fully. "Do not mistake my hesitation for indifference, Eric. You are unlike anyone I have ever encountered. Your impulsiveness, your optimism, it challenges everything I believe. And yet, he prompted gently, his heart pounding in anticipation. "And yet, I find myself drawn to it," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "To you." For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The hum of the ship's engines faded into the background, replaced by the steady rhythm of their breathing. Eric reached out hesitantly, his fingers brushing hers. The contact sent a jolt through both of them, electric and undeniable. "Velithra," he murmured, his gaze locking with hers. "Whatever this is between us, it doesn't have to complicate anything. It can be our greatest adventure." Her lips parted as if to reply, but before she could speak, alarms blared throughout the ship. The peaceful moment shattered, replaced by urgency as they rushed to the bridge. A distress signal had been detected, an SOS from a derelict vessel drifting perilously close to a black hole's event horizon. Without hesitation, Velithra took command, her focus snapping back into place. "Prepare rescue teams," she ordered, her voice firm once more. "We leave immediately." Eric stood beside her, his earlier nervousness replaced by determination. As the Ecliptica sped toward the stranded ship, he glanced at Velithra, marveling at the duality she embodied. The fierce leader and the vulnerable woman who had let him glimpse her true self. Whatever awaited them next, he knew one thing for certain. They would face it together. The derelict vessel loomed ominously against the void, its battered hull reflecting the distorted light of the black hole's accretion disk. As the Ecliptica approached, Velithra issued rapid-fire commands, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. "Deploy scanners. Assess structural integrity. Identify potential survivors." Her crew moved with practiced efficiency, their movements synchronized as if choreographed. Eric stood at her side, scanning the readouts on the main console. "This doesn't look good," he muttered, frowning at the jagged fractures spiderwebbing across the ship's outer shell. "If we don't move fast, that thing's gonna get pulled straight into oblivion." Valithra spared him a glance, her expression grim. "Then we act swiftly. Prepare the extraction team." Within minutes, a squad of Crinian Marines, clad in reinforced exosuits, assembled in the hangar bay. Eric insisted on joining them, despite Valithra's protests. "You're needed here," she argued, her tone sharp with concern. "This is too dangerous. And you think I'm letting you send your people into harm's way without backup?" He countered, strapping on a borrowed helmet. "Besides, I've got experience with tight spots. Trust me. I'll be fine." Reluctantly, she relented, issuing him a compact energy rifle and a comm link. "Stay close," she ordered, her voice softer now. "Promise me." "Promise," he said, giving her a reassuring smile before jogging to join the boarding party. The journey to the derelict ship was fraught with peril. Turbulent gravitational waves buffeted the shuttle, forcing the pilot to weave through debris fields and radiation bursts. Inside, Eric gripped his seat tightly, muttering under his breath. Note to self: next vacation, skip the black holes. When they finally docked, the airlock hissed open to reveal a scene of devastation. Twisted metal and broken conduits littered the corridors, and emergency lighting cast eerie shadows that danced across the walls. The team fanned out cautiously, weapons at the ready, their footsteps echoing ominously in the silence. "Any sign of life?" Eric asked over the comm, his voice tense but steady. "Negative," came the reply from one of the Marines. "But sensors indicate residual heat signatures. Someone or something was here recently." As they pressed deeper into the ship, the sense of unease grew palpable. Eric's instincts screamed at him to turn back, but he pushed forward, unwilling to abandon the mission. Then, without warning, the floor trembled violently, and a deafening roar reverberated through the corridors. "What was that?" Eric shouted, bracing himself against a bulkhead. Before anyone could answer, a massive creature emerged from the shadows. A biomechanical monstrosity, part machine and part organic nightmare. Its eyes glowed red with malice, and its claws sparked with lethal energy. The Marines opened fire immediately, but the beast shrugged off the blasts, advancing with terrifying speed. "Fall back," Eric yelled, firing his rifle as he retreated. The creature lunged, narrowly missing him as he dove behind a fallen support beam. Desperation fueled his actions as he scrambled to reload, his mind racing for a solution. Meanwhile, aboard the Ecliptica, Valithra watched the unfolding disaster on the monitors, her knuckles white as she gripped the railing. "Get me a direct line to Eric," she demanded, her voice trembling with barely contained fury. "Commander, we're losing stability," Xerus warned, pointing to the rapidly fluctuating readings. "The black hole's gravity is pulling us closer." "I don't care," she snapped, her eyes blazing. "Eric is still down there." On the derelict ship, Eric spotted an abandoned engineering station and sprinted toward it, dodging the creature's relentless attacks. "If I can overload the reactor core, maybe I can disable this thing," he muttered, frantically inputting commands. Behind him, the Marines provided covering fire, their ammo dwindling dangerously low. Just as the creature closed in, a brilliant flash of light engulfed the corridor. The explosion knocked Eric off his feet, and when he looked up, the beast lay motionless, its mechanical components fused into useless slag. Gasping for breath, he tapped his comm link. "Mission accomplished. Now let's get out of here before this whole place collapses." Back on the Ecliptica, Valithra exhaled in relief as the shuttle reattached to the hangar bay. She stormed into the chamber the moment the airlock opened, her eyes locking onto Eric's weary but triumphant figure. Forgetting protocol entirely, she pulled him into a fierce embrace, her voice cracking with emotion. "Don't ever do that again," he chuckled weakly, returning the hug. "Noted. But hey, told you I'd be fine." Though shaken, the crew worked tirelessly to stabilize the Ecliptica and escape the black hole's deadly grip. As they emerged into safer space, the adrenaline began to fade, leaving behind a profound realization. Their bond had been tested and strengthened, in ways neither could have foreseen. The aftermath of the rescue mission lingered heavily aboard the Ecliptica, casting long shadows over both triumph and tragedy. While the extraction team had successfully neutralized the biomechanical threat, the cost weighed heavily on everyone involved. Several Crinian Marines had sustained critical injuries, their recovery uncertain despite the advanced medical facilities on board. Xerxes bore the burden silently, his usually stoic demeanor cracked by the loss of comrades who had served under his command for decades. Eric, too, carried the scars of battle. Not physical ones, but emotional wounds carved by the sight of friends pushed to their limits. Velithra, ever the stoic leader, presided over debriefings with unwavering focus, dissecting every decision, every misstep. Yet, beneath her composed exterior, turmoil brewed. The near loss of Eric haunted her, replaying in vivid detail whenever she closed her eyes. She had always prided herself on maintaining distance, ensuring that personal attachments never clouded her judgment. But now, faced with the stark reality of how close she had come to losing him, she questioned the very foundation of her leadership philosophy. "It's not weakness to care," Eric said one evening, finding her alone in the observation lounge. He approached cautiously, sensing the storm brewing within her. "You saved those people today. We both did. That counts for something." She turned to face him, her luminous eyes reflecting the starlight streaming through the viewport. "At what cost? How many more lives must be risked because of my choices?" "Because of your choices?" Eric repeated incredulously. "Velithra, you didn't force anyone to follow you. They chose to fight alongside you because they believe in you. Hell, half the crew probably thinks you're invincible." A faint smile tugged at the corners of her lips, though it failed to reach her eyes. "Invincibility is an illusion, Eric. One I can no longer afford." He stepped closer, his voice gentle but firm. "Nobody expects you to be perfect, least of all me. But shutting yourself off, that's not going to fix anything. Let the people around you help carry the weight. Isn't that what leaders are supposed to do?" Her gaze softened, and for a moment, the walls she had built around herself crumbled. "And what of us?" she asked quietly. "What becomes of this connection between us?" Eric hesitated, the enormity of the question settling over him like a heavy cloak. "I don't know," he admitted, "but running away from it won't make it disappear. Whatever happens next, we'll figure it out. Together." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent summons from the bridge. Sensors had detected an anomaly, a strange energy signature emanating from a distant star system. Initial scans suggested it might be artificial, possibly linked to an ancient civilization long thought extinct. The discovery reignited a spark of purpose among the crew, offering a temporary reprieve from the weight of recent events. As Velithra and Eric made their way to the bridge, they exchanged a glance, unspoken understanding passing between them. The road ahead remained uncertain, fraught with challenges neither could predict. Yet, amidst the uncertainty, one truth stood clear. Their bond, forged in the crucible of danger and sacrifice, had become an unshakable cornerstone of hope. Upon reaching the bridge, Velithra wasted no time issuing orders. "Set course for the coordinates," she commanded, her voice steady once more. "Maximum warp. Let's see what secrets lie waiting in the stars." Eric grinned, leaning against the railing as the ship surged forward. "Here's to new beginnings," he said, raising an imaginary glass. Velithra smiled faintly, her eyes fixed on the swirling hyperspace tunnel ahead. "And to whatever comes next." As the Ecliptica ventured deeper into uncharted space, drawn by the mysterious energy signature, Velithra and Eric found themselves increasingly inseparable. The challenges they faced only served to strengthen their bond, each trial forging a connection that transcended species, culture, and even galaxies. Their differences, once points of contention, became sources of fascination and admiration. Velithra marveled at Eric's boundless optimism and resourcefulness, while Eric was endlessly captivated by Velithra's wisdom, strength, and quiet vulnerability. The discovery at the heart of the anomaly turned out to be more profound than anyone could have imagined. An ancient artifact, pulsating with lifelike energy, revealed fragments of knowledge about a long-lost civilization that had once thrived on cooperation between disparate species. It was as if the universe itself was nudging them toward unity, a message neither Velithra nor Eric could ignore. One evening, under the soft glow of twin moons orbiting a serene planet where the crew had paused for respite, Eric approached Velithra in the ship's botanical garden. She stood amidst a sea of bioluminescent flora, her ethereal beauty accentuated by the shimmering light. He took a deep breath, his hands fumbling nervously with a small object he'd been carrying for days. "Velithra," he began, his voice steady despite the butterflies in his stomach. I know we come from worlds apart, literally, but I can't imagine my life without you anymore. She turned to face him, her luminous eyes widening slightly as she noticed the tiny box in his hand. Inside lay a simple yet elegant ring, crafted from materials scavenged during their travels. Its design blended human ingenuity with Crinian artistry, symbolizing the fusion of their two lives. I don't expect you to give up who you are or what you've built here, Eric continued, his gaze unwavering. But I want to spend the rest of my days learning from you, fighting beside you, laughing with you, and maybe, just maybe, building something together that lasts beyond the stars. Tears glistened in Velithra's eyes, a rare display of emotion that spoke volumes. For so long, she had lived solely for duty, placing the needs of others above her own desires. But standing there, surrounded by the beauty of creation and the warmth of Eric's love, she realized she no longer had to choose. Love did not diminish her strength. It amplified it. Yes, she whispered, her voice trembling with joy. Eric Kane, you infuriating, impossible man. You have my heart. Always. Their union became a celebration unlike any other, blending traditions from both Earth and Zerathia. The ceremony took place aboard the Ecliptica, with the entire crew serving as witnesses. Xerus officiated, his gruff demeanor softened by genuine affection for the couple. As Velithra and Eric exchanged vows beneath a holographic canopy of stars, the galaxy seemed to pause, as if acknowledging the significance of this moment. In the years that followed, their family grew, not just in numbers but in spirit. Velithra bore 3 children, each a perfect blend of their parents' traits. Their eldest, a daughter named Lyria, inherited her mother's commanding presence and strategic mind, while their sons, Kale and Orion, mirrored Eric's adventurous spirit and knack for invention. Together, they formed a household filled with laughter, curiosity, and boundless imagination. Under Velithra's guidance, the intergalactic coalition embraced a new era of diplomacy, one rooted in mutual respect and collaboration. Eric played a pivotal role in bridging gaps between species, using his charm and ingenuity to foster alliances that benefited all. Their shared vision transformed the coalition into a beacon of hope across the cosmos, proving that unity was possible even among the most unlikely companions. On quiet nights, when the demands of leadership waned and the vastness of space stretched endlessly before them, Velithra and Eric would sit side by side on the observation deck, watching the stars drift past. They often reflected on how far they'd come, from adversaries to partners to soulmates. Each glance, each touch, carried the weight of their journey, a testament to the power of love to conquer all. And so, their story became legend, whispered among the stars and etched into the annals of history. Commander Velithra and Eric Kane proved that even in a universe defined by chaos and uncertainty, love could shine brightest of all, a guiding light leading the way to a brighter future.